If you're looking for a tutorial on how to properly set up your Shopify products, well, that's exactly what we're going to cover in today's tutorial style video. What's going on, everyone? It's Spencer here. If you're new to the channel, I actually run a growth-focused agency by the name of Easy A Media, where we help multiple 6- and 7-figure Shopify brands grow their sales profitably. And as an agency that works with a lot of different clients, we've seen some pretty interesting backends when it comes to setting up Shopify product stores. So in today's video, I just want to share what has been the simplest and easiest way for us to help our clients clean up their backend SKU organization and how to actually set up products inside of your Shopify store the correct way to ensure that your users have a smooth experience and you are able to leverage the reports that Shopify provides for you to know exactly what is going on with your business. Now, just as a final note, the way that I'm showing you to set up products is not the only way to set up products, but it has just been the best way for our clients to be organized and, more importantly, optimized for the front end of Shopify when it comes to displaying their products correctly. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so as you can see, we're inside of our Shopify store. And of course, when it comes to creating products, we're gonna need to navigate over to the products tab over here, and then simply go over to the black add product button. And once you do that, is going to load up now the product editor for you to actually start creating and uploading the details for your specific product. So the first thing that you're gonna do is, of course, give your product a name. So whatever the name of your product is, always make sure that you give it a name that accurately describes the product and isn't some kind of brand jargon that doesn't really make a lot of sense. We see a lot of brands really do this wrong by naming their products something that is unique or something that people don't really understand, rather than just a product name that is to the point and is what people are actually looking for. Now, just to give you an example, our client over here at Lifein has named their product the Swift Special High-Speed Hair Dryer with 3 nozzles, which is definitely a little bit more on the branded side, as rather than saying high-speed hair dryer with 3 nozzles, they've added the Swift Special, which is what their actual hair dryer is called, which is totally okay to do. But what you want to avoid is just, for example, naming this the Swift Special and leaving it at that. You want to make sure it's very clear what people are actually purchasing. And if you want to get an idea of what you should name your product, you can do a quick search of whatever your product category is in and see how people are actually naming it on Amazon. So as you can see here, Amazon goes all out with how they actually name their products. And the reason why is because these are all things that people are searching for. So they want to actually rank their products in that search. So for example, hair dryer with diffuser, negative ionic blow dryer with 110,000 RPM brushless high-speed motor, as you can imagine, that is going to come up in a lot more searches compared to just hair dryer. So I'm not saying you need to go all Amazon style on your product title naming, but definitely just take a second to think through what people are going to be searching for, because this can definitely help your Google Shopping and some other advertising platforms in the future. So just make sure that your product title is accurate and actually describes the product. All right, so in this instance, I'm actually going to be using our client over at CarePod as an example. So we're going to call one of their humidifiers, which they actually have, is the CarePod Cube 5-liter stainless steel humidifier. And now for the description, what I always like to do is add 3 bullet points to try to capture at least 1 feature and 2 benefits, or 2 features and 1 benefit. Again, it's going to depend on the product, and really try to think through what information does my user need to know at a glance in order for them to be more confident in actually purchasing this specific product. So in this instance, I'm actually going to add 1 feature up here, which is a 3-piece dishwasher safe design for hassle-free cleaning, which also kind of leads to a benefit, which if you can tie features to benefits, which you should be able to. And then for the next bullet point, stainless steel anti-mold interior for 99% sterilization. And again, this is a massive USP for this brand in particular, so this is something that we're going to want to call out. And then finally, just a really solid benefit down here, which is enjoy better breathing, improved sleep, and healthier skin. Again, just doing the market research to actually understand what our client's product does for people, and then just surfacing that up the top for people to see at a glance. And now finally, I always recommend adding a small written description. So as you can see here, I'm just saying the CarePod Cube is the world's simplest and cleanest humidifier for everyone. It's now available with new powerful features. It's perfect for large indoor spaces, and the award-winning CarePod Cube hydrates and refreshes dry air for better living. And if you're wondering, my copywriter definitely wrote this, I didn't. But take the time to really sit down and think through what are the main selling points of my product, and try to just just bundle it nice and neatly in this description. So that way, not only are you actually going to be able to convince more people with your product description, but you're also going to provide them the necessary information that they need in order to figure out whether or not this product is right for them. Now, when it comes to uploading product photos, I'm not going to dive too deep into this right now. Now, if you haven't seen my video on the top 7 product photos that you should have in your product carousel, there should be a link on the screen to go check that out, and you should definitely watch that after this video. But what I'll say for now is that it's so important that in your first photo, you just have a clear shot of the product itself. Now, if your product obviously has awards, make sure you just Photoshop those on there. Go into Canva or go ask some graphic designer on Upwork, edit a clear product photo with those awards and whatever certifications that your product has. But most importantly, just make sure this first photo in your carousel is a clear shot of the product so people actually know what they're looking at. And again, I will leave a link in the description down below that will take you to the top 7 product photos that you should be using if you want to watch that at the end of this video. Now, when it comes to setup pricing, this is something that you're going to want to pay close attention to and make sure that you do properly, because I see so many people, especially brands that have a lot of SKUs, fail to actually do this properly. Now, what every single brand knows to do is add a price. So whatever the price of your product is, make sure you go ahead and add that in. And now for the compare at price, this is something where depending on what you want to do and depending on where your product is actually at, you can do one of 2 things. Number one, you can actually use your MSRP. And if you don't know what MSRP is, that means manufacturer's suggested retail price. So you can actually put that here as your compare at price. Or what I sometimes encourage clients to do is just do some research and try to find some competitors or some products that are similar in price to you. You can simply use that as your compare at price, and it will actually make sense because your product quality is similar to those of people that are charging a lot more simply because they have a big brand name. So if you want to add a compare at price, you can simply come in and add a compare at price that actually makes sense for your specific product. Now, what we see a lot of brands do is they'll come in and set their price at $200, and then they'll go to their compare at price and set it at like $600 or something that is just insane in regards to a compare at price, and nobody's gonna believe this stuff. So rather than trying to make it look like you have the best deal ever, just put a compare at price that actually makes sense for your specific product, or just don't put a compare at price at all. Now, when it comes to charging tax on the product, if you do charge tax, then obviously make sure you select that, but most importantly, make sure you put your cost per item into this actual box. You wouldn't believe how many brands we see that don't actually track their cost of goods sold on Shopify. Just put it in there and you'll thank me later, because when you start to add a bunch of SKUs, or as you start to grow and you start leveraging tools like Triple L Analytics, or you hire a marketing agency that will actually leverage reports for you, it's so important to make sure that you track your actual cost and your margin so that these analytic tools and companies like ours can actually help you and scale you properly. So if your cost of goods is $50, then just go ahead and put your cost inside of here, right? That way you'll actually be able to see what your profit and what your margin is on each and every single product. Now, as we get down to inventory, you'll notice that most of this is actually blurred out. Now, I'm not going to dive into how to set up this inventory because it's so different from brand to brand, but just make sure that you're tracking your quantity and you have your actual warehouses set up properly inside of Shopify. But what I want to get into and what's most important is the actual variant section here inside of Shopify, as this is where we see so many clients go wrong. Now, if you are selling a product with variants, for example, in this instance, let's say we have a version of this that is black and we have a version of this that is blue. Please do not create an additional product just for that color. As you can see on screen, we have a client that has well over 100 plus SKUs, and when they initially created their store, they thought that was the best thing to do. And they aren't alone, because we see so many different brands do this. And the reason why brands typically do this is because when they load up their collection pages, they want people to be able to see all of their variants. Because for whatever reason inside of Shopify, if you add variants down here like black and like blue, or for example, white, what will happen is that it won't actually display these in your collection page. So for example, now that I'm on our client's actual collection page, you'll notice that if I were to actually have a blue and a black variant, it won't actually show it in the collection page. I would have to click into the actual product to be able to see all of those different colored variants. But I'm telling you, the best thing to do is just to simply create the variant inside of here and go find some kind of a developer on Upwork or on on Fiverr that you can trust, or if you want to go to Shopify experts, you can do that as well. And just have them add a simple piece of custom code that allows you to show the variants inside of the collection page. Because even if you do create all of your products this way, because if you actually want all of these products to show up on your product page, you're gonna need to hire a developer anyways to custom code that for you. So because of the fact that you're gonna need some kind of custom code to get the functionality that you want anyhow, just follow this process for setting up variants inside of Shopify and then hire the custom developer to just simply display them inside the collection page. That is going to be way better than having them custom code some kind of gimmicky product page that you have to click and it reloads the page to take you to the right variant. Just trust me, we've been there, we've done that. It's definitely not worth it. Now back to the variants. Once you've added the color of each variant, sometimes you may also need to add another option, and you'll notice that down here it's starting to actually create all of these variants as well. Now let's say we also had a size or a material or a style, or if you actually want to create whatever you want, which in this instance for this client we've actually created a bundle which we named here as select bundle. You can actually add, for example, the CarePod cube times 1, or the CarePod cube times 2, or the CarePod cube times 3. And by doing that, we also now have another bundle down here for each and every single color, which Shopify so nicely creates, of all of the actual bundles as well. And with the help of a little bit of custom code, and again, it's not always going to look this pretty, but again, if you're going to hire a developer to help you with a little bit of custom code, you may as well hire them to help you pretty this up as well. You can see that we have all three variants showing here for the CarePod times 3, the CarePod times 2, and the original CarePod as well. We now have the white CarePod cube times 1, and the white CarePod cube times 2, and the white CarePod cube times 3, and all of that down for the black and the blue variants as well. Now, once you've done all of this, you're just gonna go ahead and click save. And prior to clicking save as active, I would just scroll back up to the top and set this to draft mode. So that way, when you save it, it actually still saves it as a draft and you don't just have a random product on your store. Now, once you've saved this, we're gonna scroll back down and you'll notice that the price and the information is gone. And now it's just showing you the variants. And you'll notice that the variants section here has also changed as well. Now, if for whatever reason, say you actually don't have the CarePod cube times 2 bundle for the black or for the blue, and in that instance, you can't sell those. So what you're gonna wanna do is select the ones that you actually don't have stock for, or let's just say in this instance, we don't have the CarePod cube times 3 for the blue or for the black version. So what you can do is you can select those 4 variants, select the 3 buttons down here and simply just select delete variants. And by doing that, you'll notice it'll actually cross those out. So that way they don't appear as an option for the user to actually select. Now, again, obviously I'm using this as a bundle scenario, but say for example, you had different sizes or you had different styles or whatever your variant may be, you can simply remove some of those variants based on that functionality there. Now, if you click save, it's going to go ahead and actually delete all of those variants as well, which I'm just going to go ahead and do. And now, as you can see, we have all the variants that we actually want. And now we need to go ahead and upload the images for each one as well. By selecting this variant image, it'll actually pull up the option for you to just use the initial photo here. So for example, this is the white CarePod times 1, which looks great. So I'm going to go ahead and select that as the variant image. Now for the CarePod cube times 2 and times 3, I'm going to scroll back up and actually add those specific images so that when people select that variant, it will actually scroll them to that specific image. Added the CarePod 2 and the CarePod 3, so I'm going to scroll down and select those as the correct variants. And now by doing that, whenever someone actually selects the white CarePod cube times 2, it will actually take them to that photo, which leads me to another massive mistake that a lot of brands make is, for example, when you select a variant, make sure you actually update the photo so people know what they're looking at. Because the worst thing that could happen is I select the CarePod times 3 and I'm still looking at this photo. I might not be like, okay, well, where's the 3? You know what I mean? Or in this instance, for example, if we're actually talking about colors, which in this instance, imagine if I were to select the green color here and it just continued to show me the blue one, I'd be like, well, I want to see a full, photo of the green one, right? So just understand what customers are going through and make sure that you have an optimal experience. And the way to ensure that happens is by uploading images for your particular variants. Now, the final thing that I need to discuss is how to actually update the pricing for these variants. As you can imagine, the pricing for 2 is probably going to be a lot different for the pricing to 1. So now if I go ahead and save those changes and I click into the care pod times 2, I'm obviously going to need to update the pricing, right? So here, for example, because the care pod 1 is $200, you could probably assume that the care pod 2 is going to be $400. But this is where you're going to be smart and you're going to actually set that as your compare and anchor price. And even if you just add a $5 discount or a $15 discount or whatever it may be, this is a great way to obviously drive up your overall profit and incentivize people to actually purchase more. There's a reason why so many brands do this, and that reason is because it works extremely well. And even if it's the exact same product, people will sometimes just buy multiple because they think they're getting a great deal, which in this instance, hey, they're saving $15, which fair enough, $15 is $15. And now it's super important to make sure you also update your cost per item as well. This is another thing that we see so many brands forget to do, is to make sure you update your cost, right? We're selling 2 of these now, so now our cost is going to be $100. And you do this for every other variant as well. And for example, in this scenario, I still haven't added the actual image, so I should be adding the image of the black care pod, even though the black care pod doesn't exist, although it'd be really cool if it did. It's so important to make sure that you begin optimizing your variants as well, so that way you have a full, smooth user experience. Full transparency, this is actually what the default template looks like for this specific product. And as you can tell, obviously we're a CRO agency for a reason, because we can make this order form look a lot better based on the one that you saw before. But even if you don't have the luxury of a CRO agency, you can see this is still very effective, because now we have the 350 crossed out to 315. If we select the 2, you can see the savings here as well. And it's still also updating to the correct product photo. In this instance, you can see we have the benefit points still here as well. And all in all, this is a lot more optimal, and it's a lot smoother user experience for someone to select their variants on this page compared to going to a bunch of different products. And that is it. That is the complete setup from how to properly name your products, how to give it an optimized description, how to upload those photos. And don't forget, I have that link below for you to check out the top 7 product photos for your Shopify carousel. I've also showed you how to create variants and how to customize it towards your different SKUs, how to optimize those variants and update the prices, the imagery, and everything else in between. And now by the end of this video, you should have a full understanding of how to set up products the right way, or at least what's been most optimal for our clients at the agency. Well, if this video has helped you in any way, definitely consider subscribing, as I release weekly videos talking about how you can grow your Shopify brand and share the exact strategies and systems that our agency uses to do so. And lastly, if you are a multiple 6 or 7-figure Shopify brand looking for the help of a growth-focused agency, I definitely encourage you to grab a time with me down below to get your custom growth plan. With all that said, thank you so much for taking the time to watch today's video, and I will see you next week.